there is no Samsung White this year. There's no team that you watch their play and you say, this team is so far ahead above the rest.
지금 중국뿐만 아니라 다른 팀들이 모두 다 잘하기 때문에 지금 여기서는 유럽 팀들도 등장하고
The trend continues. These guys are legit, man. What a start to Worlds from Origin.
Flash Wolves beating Ku.
Ku Tigers too far behind. Can't do anything. What is up with the upsets?
북미도 등장하고
On C9 completes the ace, and they complete the 2-0 already at Worlds.
World domination, how's that going?
Oh, we're too low.
Guys, it's bonkers over here in Paris.
AHQ takes down Fnatic.
AHQ bounce back and make this group really interesting.
Anything can happen.
And Soaz extinguishes the ghost of his past.
It's the Mortal Kombat! Oh! 3-0 start to the World Championship. SKT undaunted take down Edward Gaming.
Bonjour et bienvenue to the conclusion of Week 1 of the 2015 League of Legends World Championships. You're getting a glimpse inside Le Doc Pullman in Paris, France, where the crowd is very pumped up for our final day of Week 1. Fans are streaming in, getting to their seats for another day of action. And of course, KT dialing in before they fight OG for the #1 spot in their group, and AHQ looking to keep the momentum up after yesterday's comeback win over Fnatic. Hello everyone, I'm James Dash Patterson here, continuing our coverage of Worlds 2015 alongside Jacob Yamato Cannon Mebdi, Christopher Monte Cristo Michaels, and of course the jungler for the NALCS NCAA is what I was about to say. NALCS jungler. Oh my goodness, Alberto Crumbs Rengifo. Welcome back to day 4 of the group stage, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
It's great. All right, well, to start the day off, let's take a look at the standings. CLG is still on top of Group A after their day off yesterday. We'll see what they can do with some rest later on. Cloud9 is alone on top of Group B, while Fnatic and AHQ are tied for the #2 spot. SKT led Group C after beating Edward Gaming yesterday. And in Group D, KT Rolster and Europe's Origin are tied, at least until our second game of the day. And I don't know about you, gentlemen, but my pick'em is in shambles.
My pick'em is a giant dumpster inferno right now. That's the best metaphor I can give for you.
Can we decipher what has happened? You know, Group C has gone relatively as expected with SKT and EDG at the top. But as soon as we move on to Group B, that's where things get all kinds of crazy. We had C9 at the top of it right now with a win over IG. We start with that. We'll start with that game.
I mean, you know what IG reminds me of? It's one of those cars that you see on the street that just got out of an accident, but instead of replacing one of their tires with a real tire, they put one of those Vespa motorcycle tires on it. And it's just trucking along, and that tire is kidding kitties. I mean, these guys got to get it together because they're holding everyone back. You need to create a strategy around your strength and not on your weakness.
I have to say as well, like, IG, as well as the other Chinese teams, it's quite obvious that they've only scrimmed each other because there's obvious, like, pick and ban flaws. They've been blind picking Echo, blind picking Hecker, and blind picking Malphite, which is strange to me.
And then real quick, AHQ with that comeback win over Fnatic. A lot of people weren't expecting that, thinking Fnatic would be the #1 seed out of the group. Now they're fighting for the #2 spot.
Well, the first game by HQ, I don't think was a particularly good indicator. We expected them to be stronger. They came in, showed a lot of weakness with that Rengar jungle and those wacky picks, but they pulled it together and showed that they could be the team we expect them to be. Now, the big question, of course, is LGD. Can they pull it together and show us why they're China's #1 seed? Because we know they're better than this. We can talk about IG. I hate to tell you, Crumbs, Kid and Kitties have never been good, so I don't really have a lot of hope there. But we know that LGD can be a much better team.
So you're claiming they were never a new car. If we move on to Group D, Origin is joining KT on the top, while LGD and TSM are still looking for their first win. We'll start off with the OG TSM game, NA versus EU.
I think Origin versus KT is really probably the best game of the day. Both of these teams have been spectacular. Their drafts have been very intelligent, and their play, all 10 players have really stepped up to the plate, and it's just exciting to watch these guys. There's no one player that you could say, yeah, you know what, that guy's kind of not as good as the rest of his team. They're all playing in unison, and that's why they're both 2-0.
Yeah, and to your point, Monty, yesterday, TSM looking lost around the Rift with as simple as an Anivia pick coming through, not understanding how to play around it.
TSM is just a very transparent team in the draft. I think that's their biggest problem, is that Origin did a lot of research. Crumbs was just talking about their great pick and ban phase. They bait out this Darius pick, then they play a kite composition. TSM is known as a team that really statistically does not very much before 20 minutes, so it was easy for the Anivia to scale. And then when it came to fighting around those dragons, there was basically compositionally very few ways that TSM could realistically win those team fights with the champions they selected. And I don't know how deep TSM's champion pools run. If I had to guess, not very deep, and they're probably not going to do very well in this group.
Yamato, let's move on to the second matchup from yesterday, KT versus LGD. LGD falling another game behind KT with another very solid game here, showing why they deserve to be at the top of this group.
I feel once again, draft mistakes. I feel like KT completely outdrafted LGD. The blind pick Hecarim, the Varus, I think it got completely countered by the Malphite, and Malphite is in a good matchup against the Hecarim. He can completely just stack armor. It was just a really good draft from KT.
Well, one thing we know for sure, either TSM or LGD will pick up a win before the week is up because they have to play in the first game of the day. Then, of course, KT goes up against Origin for dominance in Group D, and later on, it's another NA versus EU showdown between Cloud9 and Fnatic. And, of course, as today's action unfolds, we want to hear what you think. Tweet at LOL Esports and tell us what has surprised you the most in the world's group stage so far and why. And, gentlemen, I'm going to turn to you for this one because there's been quite a few surprises.
Like, I could begin. Like, the biggest surprise to me is Cloud9. Like, the fact that they've continued the growth they've had throughout the previous split has impressed me a lot, and they've, like, continued to improve. Like, I don't think the Cloud9 we've seen at Worlds is not the same one we've seen at Gauntlet.
Monty, how about you?
It's hard to say. There's so many surprises, right? I have to go with LGD. This is a team that finished so strongly. Sure, we had seen them be a little hit or miss during the regular season, but I thought after their playoff performance that they had really geared up and were going to be coming in strong. But even that really MVP of the playoffs performance by Imp hasn't translated over. He did well in his first game, okay in his second game, but beyond that, it's been incredibly underwhelming. So we need to see more from LGD.
Crumbs, finish us off.
To me, the biggest surprise is the preparation that these teams are coming from, because they have such intelligent drafts catered to specific teams, so they know a lot of how the group is going to play out. And the biggest example is KT and Origin. That group, these two guys are coming in so prepared with their drafts, knowing what the other guys play, and building around that, building compositions that counter what they're going to do, and playing against it with crazy baits, and really having very patient games in which they wait for your opponent to outplay themselves. Take one mistake, game's over. That's perfectly, to be honest, just waiting for that time.
Well, those are some of the surprises we've seen. Be sure to tweet your responses to @LOL Esports and be sure to include the hashtag Worlds so we can talk over a few of your answers on the desk later today. And before we send it over to our casters to get the games underway, I got to put you guys on the spot. Game one here to close out the week, TSM versus LGD. Who are you guys going with?
I have to say LGD. Like, I think the mismatch in the jungle, like, TBQ has been a big issue for LGD, and I feel like Santorin hasn't really shown up in a long time, and I feel that's where it's going to, like, show.
Yeah, I have to agree. I'm taking LGD here. The spot that can be struck at by TSM will not be struck at, and that's TBQ. And then pound for pound, they just hit harder in the lanes. And Bjergsen, I don't think, is going to have such an easy time in this game.
And finally, Crumbs?
You know, this game, there's a lot on the line because the other two counterparts of the team, to the group, are both 2-0. So a loss here and going 0-3 is almost certainly guaranteeing one of these teams to not make it out of groups. So I think both of these teams have to revert back to a very safe style. So it's probably going to be a slow game. But in the end, I'm siding with LGD because I feel like TSM is trying to be the cool kids and play the draft that everybody else is doing that doesn't fit their style. They can't play these comps. The entire LCS season, they won playing super slow, late game composition that scale just horrendously, very well. I mean, terrifically into the late game.
The exact opposite, in
They
fact.
scale terrifically into the late game, like AP Cog and stuff like that. And sure, maybe it won't work here, but you've got nothing to lose practically. Play back to that style. They're not doing it. Just stop trying to copy what others are doing and really just go with your strength. LGD for me.
Both teams looking for a win. We'll see who comes away with it. Well, without further ado, let's step inside Ladakh Pullman for Game 1 after God V shares his impressions of TSM's Great Dane in the mid lane.